At the end of August, I decided to challenge myself to try and sew 30 minutes a day to build a sewing habit because at the time I had not been in my sewing room in quite a while and projects had been languishing. So, September, having 30 days in the month and starting on a Monday seemed like the perfect time to try to build this habit. Now, did I sew 30 minutes a day for all 30 days? You'll have to keep watching to find out, so stay tuned. Hi, I'm Tony, and this is So Lounge. Now, you may be wondering why someone with a sewing channel on YouTube would need to start or build a sewing habit. And the reality is that even though I do a lot of sewing, I do not necessarily do sewing every single day or even consecutive days sometimes because I still work a full-time job. And as part of this whole YouTube process, there is editing and filming and prepping and all kinds of other things that go into it. So in the past, I have found that, maybe a week or two could go by and I hadn't actually sat down and sewed. It was while I was reading Atomic Habits by James Clear that I realized consciously planning to build a sewing habit and create a daily practice of sewing might be a good challenge, but also a challenge for myself to see if it was something I could actually do. So back in August, I created a whole little September calendar, which you may have downloaded to, participate in this activity along with me. And the goal, of course, was to sew 30 minutes a day for all 30 days. Now, one of the points in this book was to create a habit that would be easy to follow and to set a specific time and place and activity so that you would have it written down somewhere concrete so that you could look at that and say, okay, I will sew at 6:45 to 7:15 in the sewing room Monday through Thursday, and then because my schedule is easier on the weekend, I plan to sew from 3 to 3:30 Friday through Sunday. Now, did that work out? Not so much because I didn't factor in the dog walking time that had been taking place at 6:30 every night. And if you have a dog, you know what I'm talking about. Honey did not want to wait until I finished sewing at 7:15 to go for a walk. So when I did try and sit down and sew, she would be in here bumping me with her nose and crying because it was walkie time and that's what she wanted to go do. So I quickly realized that my plan of sewing at a particular time was not going to work with honey involved. So what I decided to do was just be flexible, let it shift. I kind of tossed that whole part of my plan out of the window because I found that sometimes I've had a rough day at court and I want to just come home and sit down and work on a project for an hour and then go back and do something else or go do, behind the scenes YouTube work on my business. Or sometimes I'd be like, oh, I really just need to take a break. Let me go write an email instead or respond to comments on videos. And then it got to be about, 7:15, 7:30. Then I'd be like, okay, now I feel like sewing. So I think allowing flexibility in my schedule helped me kind of get into the habit of trying to sew every day. And it at the very least made me come into my sewing room every day. Even if I didn't sew every single day, I actually would come in and sit down, or maybe I'd tidy up a little bit and maybe that would only take a few minutes, but I just recognized that, the act of coming into my sewing room just helped me change my mindset a little bit, get in a more positive state of mind, because let's face it, this is the best hobby ever. And, sewing always brings me such joy. I mean, just seeing my fabric on this big rounder over here just makes me happy. My September started strong. I managed to sew the 1st through the 4th very successfully. And that was in spite of not having any projects cut out yet because I got to working on some other stuff on Labor Day, and then I was like, "Oh, I need to go do my 30 minutes of sewing." So, the throwdown garment was this denim dress that I've been working on for a while, and if you saw the video about gathering with a serger, this is the dress featured in that video, and little progress has been made. I did manage to put the sleeves in. I did finish, the hem down here. All the seams are finished on the inside. This needs to be trimmed. Um, I was having a challenge wrapping my head around how to put these on, yesterday, but I also had a headache, so that was part of the problem. I didn't do a great job on the 5th or the 6th, so those are 2 days I didn't sew, and then I had a pretty good stretch from the 7th through the 14th, so I got 8 days in a row, and one thing that I found was that if I said, like, "Okay, just go in and sew for, a few minutes, just go sit down, go work on something," with a minimum of 30 minutes in mind for me personally, I found that I would work a little bit longer. I'd be like, "Oh, well, I'm almost done with this step," or "I've got 2 steps left, let me just finish it." Like, "Let me just finish the hem on this dress," and there's cat hair on this. Anyway, let me just finish the hem. And so I'd go press up the hem. And once I finished pressing, maybe it had been about 15 minutes. Say, okay, well, I'm just going to sit down and sew it. And then it was like, oh, okay, let me prep the next step. Let me get the interfacing attached to the front bands. So that's all ready to go. And then the next time I sit down, if I don't have another project to work on, then I can just come back to this. I'm going to show you what I got finished, how it went, some thoughts on the patterns that I used, and, I would love to hear if you tried this challenge and how it went. This is the Lodo dress from True Bias. I made the shorter version that the model is wearing. It does come in a longer version as well. I finished sewing this on September 13th. I think it turned out pretty well. I'm particularly pleased with the way that I got the stripes to line up between the keyboard. I worked really hard when I laid it out. And the same for the stripes in the back. All the black stripes match up. And I tried to match the keys as best as possible. I think it turned out pretty well. Same for this side. Like it's just, I've got some loose threads here and there. So I'm happy with the way the dress turned out. It is a little bit on the short side. One thing that I did not love is the way that they had you finish the sleeves. So the sleeves have a plain weave bias um, binding on them. And they said to use like something like linen. So I happen to have lime green linen. So that's what I used. They had you put it in and then sew this underarm seam here, and it was too tight under my arm. So I tore that out a little bit. I would put the sleeves in differently next time. I would, and I don't remember what I said I was going to do because I wrote it on the instructions while I was thinking about it. Like, this is not the method I would use for doing this. So they had you sew the facing in flat, and then you sewed the sleeve back together at the bottom, and it made the armhole too small. So they basically had you sew it flat, fold it together, and then you start stitching the armhole up here, and then folded it open and then stitched around the armhole again. And that just didn't work. It was about almost 2 inches too tight in the armhole. It was way up here. And so I just dropped it, but I'd put it together differently next time. So, and I wouldn't sew the side seam down here together. I probably wouldn't do this extra stitching. I just kind of finish around the armhole and not put in this extra edge stitching like they suggested. The neckline turned out really well. I was really happy about that. And then the other thing is I actually hemmed it a little bit shorter because I wanted to make sure that the keys were all on the bottom going all the way around so it didn't look uneven. So it's a little tiny bit shorter because I had to do that in order to make it work. But all in all, I'm pretty excited about the way this dress turned out. It came together pretty quickly, except for had to go back in and fix the armholes. But other than that, it worked out well. I'm super excited to be wearing this at my YouTube conference next week. So if you want to see what it looks like on me or any of the dresses that I'm showing you today, check out my community feed. I will be posting pictures and maybe doing some shorts. I'm not sure. Kind of depends on how crazy things get. But if you want to see how they look and how I accessorize them and the shoes I pair them with, you want to keep an eye on that all next week. The other thing about building a habit is that it helps boost your confidence. Now, I'm sure you're like me, and when you haven't been sewing for a while and then you sit down again, you make mistakes. You start doing stupid things that you wouldn't normally do, but because you're out of sync with your sewing machine, things just aren't flowing. You're not in the rhythm, and it's very frustrating. And there's nothing worse than trying to get something done or finish up a project and having to rip almost every single seam you sew. Now, that's where choosing your projects to start your habit really comes into play, because when you choose an easy project or a pattern that you've already sewn before, you're almost guaranteed success because it's not brand new and it's not a whole bunch of difficult techniques. Now, with this dress, this is McCall's 8160. This is my favorite dress pattern. I have made this on 2 other occasions. So first off, I'm building my confidence because I know how to make this dress. I can sit down and just sew it without any problems. And then second, it's not a complicated pattern. There are no bust darts. It has flat sleeves that just get sewn in, and then you finish the whole underarm seam. It has a very easy little neckline facing, and it just pulls on over your head. So it's super simple as far as the pattern goes, but then added bonus, because I've already done this before, I know I need to put a gathering basting stitch to get that sleeve curve just a little bit better. So I did that, and the hem and everything else was easy. And so by the time I finished this, I was super excited because it was done, it looks good, and now I have a third edition of my favorite dress. Go and try to start your habit with an easy pattern or a pattern that you've already sewn, because that's going to help boost your confidence along the way. And the better you feel about your sewing project, the more excited you're going to get about sitting down with your sewing machine. Another thing I realize is that if I really got into the groove of sewing, I could easily sew for 2 hours with not even realizing any time had gone by. So there are several days when I sewed for 2 hours. Um, Monday the 8th, Tuesday the 16th, and Tuesday the 23rd. Now, it is appropriate to note on the 16th and the 23rd, I got done at court early, so I was home by like noon. In the past, I wouldn't have gotten home on a Tuesday until probably 2:30 or 3 o'clock. So, that kind of was like, yay, I have time to go sew. It's the beginning of the week. Let's go get some stuff done. And the mental health aspect of this, I think, needs to be mentioned in that when you sit down and start sewing and you're accomplishing your goal of getting this project done and getting, for me, one of my dresses finished, it made me feel good. It made me feel accomplished. And, that's the whole point of sewing, is to be able to, make progress and then have this cool thing that you made that you can wear at the end of all of your hard work. So, did I sew 30 days? And 30 minutes each day? No. Some days I sewed more than 30 minutes, so that was good, but the total was only 19 out of 30 days. And I really had hoped it would be 20, but I could not make that happen because, if you missed it, um, last Friday on the 26th, I cut open my finger with the rotary cutter, and it was in last week's video. It's on the tracing video, trace off your patterns video, if you would like to go check that out. And it's much better now. I am down to a Band-Aid, and thankfully, Curad makes a blood clotting gauze that you can put on your wound, and it turns into a gel and seals it shut and stops the bleeding. So that finally arrived from Amazon on Saturday evening. Yes, it was still bleeding. Yes, I probably should have gotten stitches, but at that point it was probably too late because it was more than 24 hours. So I didn't get any sewing done over the weekend like I had planned to, because my plan was to finish the uniform tunic, my hand hurt. I just didn't feel like doing it. It's, when you're injured, you just don't feel great. So, I didn't get anything done. Um, Monday, I was finishing to edit my video so that I could get it out so you could enjoy it. And then Tuesday, which was like, okay, it's the last day of the month. I'm gonna push through. I'm gonna get my uniform tunic finished because I was very close to being finished. I just had to attach the facings and do the hem. That was it. And then perimenopause is a beast. That's all I can say. My cycle started and I felt horrible and I had a horrible migraine all day long and I was exhausted. So instead of sitting down to sew on Tuesday, I took a nap. I actually passed out for like almost 3 hours because I just felt that bad. And I find that in those instances, it's probably better not to do any sewing because number one, that was just asking for more trouble, especially when my finger still was not doing great at that point. And you mess up more when you're tired or you don't feel good or you have a headache. So I finished the uniform tunic on the 1st of October. I gave myself a little grace. It is done. I'm going to show it to you in a second. And I am still working on the denim dress. I tried to do that yesterday. The migraine came back all day yesterday because, day 3 of the cycle, and that's what happens. And, I could not understand the pattern instructions. I looked at them again today, and you know what? They make sense, but yesterday, not so much. So the last dress that I finished is the uniform tunic from Grainline Studio. I made this version here, and the thing about it is it's actually tunic length, not dress length, even though it kinda looks like a dress in the line drawings. And I didn't realize that because the thing about indie patterns is they don't always have like the finished garment length, and I don't remember if this one does or not. I missed it. If it does, let's put it that way. Um, so it's a lot shorter than I'd like, which is fine because I still finished it. I will wear it with some leggings and some cute chunky sandals and it'll be fine. But my plan is to go see my friends at Leo 9 since they gave me this fabric for my birthday and buy another yard of this and make it dress length. Because I do really like it and I think it would look super cute as a dress. I do like it as a tunic, but I don't think I'll wear it as much because I tend to wear dresses more. But it has these really fun pockets. So I did not finish the pockets on the inside, and I did not finish this seam that is the waistline seam basically, because I'm gonna go take that out, and if I have to rip it out, then I'll just rip it out and then reattach it. But that way I don't have to recut all the pockets and recut everything. I just have to take it apart and take off this panel on the outside. Now, the one thing I love about this, I love this fabric. This is broadcloth. It is what would be labeled as quilting cotton, but this is nice high end, which means it is a much better quality than the stuff you can buy at Walmart and Joann's, or formerly Joann's, or Hobby Lobby. It's a really nice weight. It's really pretty. It feels good. I pre-washed everything. And I just really like the way this turned out with the two fabrics. And then on the back, surprise, it's a third fabric. I love the back too. Like I love the front and the back, and I love that they, from the side they still look good. And this is actually the same fabric designer for these two. So I think that's one reason why they work so well because the colors are all the same. And then this is a different fabric designer and it just happened to match. So, but I love this fabric. I might actually get some more to make something else out of it with. This is I think it's called ornamental fig leaf, which I think it's fabulous. And then this is seeds and stems, I think is what this one's called. But I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I do have some slight criticism of the pattern. I did not do stay stitching. It does not say to stay stitch the neckline, so I didn't think about it. Because, if it's not on the pattern, I'm not necessarily going to think about it. And the neck got pulled out a tiny bit when I was trying it on and realizing that it was shorter than I anticipated. I would do stay stitching. I did make a note to stay stitch that. These armholes are done on, there's a bias facing in here that is from the same fabric, from the front fabric. I would stay stitch the armholes as well to just be on the safe side. I don't think I stretched them out. I think I only did that with the neckline because when I attached the bias binding for the facing, it all worked. Um, it did not fit the neck facing though, so I had to do a little workaround, do a little bit of gathering. I think I can press out. There's some little teeny tiny, we'll call them puckers because they're not actual gathers. I think I can press that out because this is 100% cotton and it's definitely going to be very forgiving. And if I can't, it's not noticeable with this super heavy print right here. That's kind of where I concentrated it so it wouldn't be noticeable. And yeah, other than that, I'm happy with the way it turned out. It was pretty quick. It does have these fun pockets in the front, which I like. I'm not a huge fan of pockets generally, but Grainlight Studio puts them in these front drop waist seams. I have another dress that has pockets that are the same way, and I really just like those. I think they're kind of fun. So this is going with me as well, and I'm looking forward to wearing it and kind of showing it off and seeing what people think when they come up for me from behind and then realize the front is different. If anybody notices, I don't know. The ladies always notice, the guys not so much. And I did get the kimono dress traced off. That was the very easy Vogue pattern. I am still going to be making that. However, I want to have my friend Heather help me fit it on me. And we were doing a fit session for her on Saturday, and my hand was just hurting. And so I was like, I just don't feel like fitting my own pattern to me at this point in time. So we'll do that another time, and then I will get that made. But I want to make sure it fits because I love the fabric that I'm going to be making it out of, and I don't want to ruin it. Now, if you signed up for the September sewing habit, you probably got an email at the end of the month. And I actually got some responses from some of you who signed up. And so I'm going to read out how some progress. So Janet said that she didn't make it every day, but her sleeve insertion has gradually improved and she's enjoying indie patterns. Let's see. Cherie said that she's going to do an October do-over. That's her plan, and that she's going to set a project from the beginning of the month. Elaine said that she recognized that she needs to work on her commitment to sewing, but she did get her baby lock serger out of the box and get it threaded and practiced serging with it. So congrats, Elaine. I know getting it out of the box is the first step. I have to do that with my cover stitch machine. So more on that, hopefully in the next month or so, but I'm optimistic. Let's see, Lisa joined me live on the Sew Together Zoom call, and she is sewing sequins by hand on a very old skirt and going to soon start working on a fairy costume for her niece. So that sounds awesome. Halloween is just around the corner. And let's see, Deborah said that just having it on paper and being able to follow along on a calendar helped her get started. So if you found the calendar helpful, I've got good news. There is an October calendar too. It is pretty much the same format. There's no sew together, and I need to figure out what date I'm going to do the live stream. So be sure to click the link in the description below if you want to get the October habit building to keep your habit going or to maybe reboot and start again and try to build your own sewing habit. Personally, I'm not going to force myself to try and sew every single day. I really did my best this month because I didn't want to let you down. And, you know, that's part of the whole challenge of, you know, I set this challenge and I want to do it. But I also gave myself some grace when I needed it. So I think that's part of it too, is recognizing what your capabilities are on different days of the month. And maybe sometimes that nap is the better option. I did finish reading Atomic Habits in September, and there was one quote in particular that really stuck with me that I think will help you too. Moving forward, this is something that's just good to remember. It says, by following the same creative ritual, you make it easier to get into the hard work of creating. And I think that's very true, that just the act of coming into my sewing room, and maybe I was just tidying up, or maybe I was just kind of, you know, resetting the different things or, just tracing off patterns or, cutting fabric and prepping it for my next project. Just doing those things helped shift my mindset into being more creative and being like, "Oh, I'm excited about sewing." And that's what makes sewing such a great hobby and a great habit to start getting into is that you really have a lot of benefits of, the relaxation process for the most part. I mean, I have to rip out too, this. But also, you're going through the act of creating something that you then get to wear and show off to other people, which has to be the absolute best part of the whole thing. I know for me it is. And I'm super excited to be wearing my new dresses to Vid Summit next week. And I hope you check it out on the community tab because, I love telling people that I make things. And they're always so surprised. It's like so fun. And if you have participated in the sewing habit building, let me know how it went. Leave a comment below or shoot me an email once you get your email. I have it set up so it's going to go out 30 days from the day you sign up. So if you signed up late, it'll be coming. Don't worry. But yeah, that's it moving forward. So I think I'm going to keep going in October, see how it goes, and well, maybe we'll round this out all the way through December and see if it sticks. Because they say the longer you do something, the more ingrained it becomes. And I think this is a good experience, and it makes me happy. It should make you happy too. If you've enjoyed this video, I've got another great one coming up next. You're totally gonna love it, and I'll see you over there.